Welcome back into Foolish Club Media. I am Steven Serda. I am not joined by my guy, Rocky Magana. Rocky is out this week, so good friend Ron Hughley stepping in to hold things down with me as the Kansas City Chiefs improve to 12-1 on the season with a 19-17 win over the Chargers. And, of course, Ron, it wouldn't be a Chiefs win if they didn't take it down to the very last second. And they can't just, it can't just be a game-winning field goal straight through the middle of the uprights. It's got to look like it might be a miss, and then it doinks off of the goalpost, goes through. Chiefs win. They're still 12-1, but this is how they've been winning, and we should be totally used to it at this point.
Yep. Back-to-back 19-17 wins against the Raiders and the Chargers. I thought he missed it. I ain't gonna lie to you, Steve. I thought he missed it as soon as it came off. I thought, well, they went ahead and finally didn't get the luck in this game or at least the ball bounced their way in this game that they generally have. But no, Patrick Mahomes had to make some big plays, some subtle big plays. His big plays are different now. It's not like the big plays all the way down the field like we used to be accustomed to. It is, hey, I'm going to shake and make a linebacker miss me so I can hit Travis Kelce for the big first down. So, I mean, it's crazy where the Chiefs are. Where you want to take this thing, man? I am, wow.
So there's a lot to discuss from this one. And I think it's the same things we've been talking about. Like, it's hard to get a read on this Chiefs team. Nothing like overly optimistic coming out of this game, but they're still 12-1. They still find a way to get it done when they have to. It doesn't matter if they're on their third kicker of the season. It doesn't matter if they got Wanya Morris back in at left tackle because DJ Humphries gets hurt in his first game action for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now they're back to Najee Johnson on the depth chart because Joshua Williams exits this game. And then, for whatever reason, again this week, Andy Reid, even though the Chargers' run defense has been absolutely decimated over the last 4 weeks, absolutely refused to run the ball. He mixed it in a little bit more in the second half, but in the first half, Andy said, nope, I refuse to run the football, and that led to the Chiefs passing a ton and Patrick Mahomes getting lit up for most of the night against the Chargers.
Yeah, and to me, yeah, it's refusing to run the ball. But for me, even bigger, Steve, it's in the crucial times he decided not to run the ball. Like coming out of the second half, the Chargers get that long drive, and all right, the defense. Hey, I literally at the half was thinking anything but 7. Well, hell, not only did they give up 7, they gave up 7, and they gave up half the quarter. And if the Chiefs had any kind of rhythm, they had seen the ball for that offense had been on the field for, an hour, it felt like, since halftime. But then you get out here and you get a 3rd and 1. And you have Pacheco or Kareem Hunt. I'm serious, sir. I don't know if there is any team in the league that has better weapons for short yardage. Like Carson Steele. He fumbles, but Carson Steele gets that little 1 yard every time they do that little fullback dive with him. I don't know a team that has that's more equipped for short yardage. And somehow we get a go route with DeAndre Hopkins, regardless if he was infield or not. Hell, that's not even his forte. Like, it's a goal. Yeah. It wasn't even worthy. And so to me, it was more the time that for me, dropbacks to me, the quick game to me was the thing that, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I'm okay with the quick game. That's an extension of the run game, and I think that helped. But it was for me more the times that he didn't run the football, and I've told you for a long time, my worst nightmare for the Chiefs is 3rd and 2 or less. Because it feels like this is the time for Andy to get frisky.
Well, and that's what was so frustrating about this game, because I mentioned the Chargers' run defense has totally fallen apart in recent weeks. And similar to the Raiders and the Panthers. Like, these are matchups where the Chiefs should be able to dictate things on the ground. And in the first half, Andy Reid just simply refused to run the football. Like, they opened, I think Isaiah Pacheco had 5 carries and within the first couple of series for the Chiefs. And then after that, didn't have another run like the rest of the first half. And he just simply refused to do it. But they make the adjustments right before half. They have that quick passing game, the no huddle offense, which they've done very little of this season. And they need to go get a touchdown drive. And it winds up being their only touchdown drive of the entire game. And then what it comes down to is, like you mentioned, Patrick Mahomes making a defender miss and finding Travis Kelce for the game-sealing first down to set up the game-winning field goal. And then he had another incredible play when they really needed it. He was able to avoid pressure and throw the football up to Xavier Worthy and get a crucial first down in that moment. And it's like they just keep making the plays that they have to, but none of this is fun. None of this is particularly entertaining. And it is very frustrating. I just have to look at the comments to know that. We'll get to some of your guys' observations here a little bit, but they keep getting it done. They keep winning, and the Bills dropped a game today. So the Chiefs are in the driver's seat now. They clinched the AFC West, and all they got to do is handle business over the last 4 games to make sure they get the first round bye in the AFC.
Yep, 2-game cushion with 4 to play, and they've got the Jameis experience next week. But they're, as you said, they're in the driver's seat. They play the Browns next week. The Bills play the Lions. So there could be even more time. And then you have the Steelers that you can handle yourself coming up on Christmas. But yeah, man, I think Andy has some confusions on what it is that he has. Like again, and I've said this, and we've had these conversations, Steve, and I know there are people who have pushed this and believe this, and hell, maybe the biggest Chief national supporter of them all, Nick Wright, our guy, pushes this. Like, the Chiefs are not practicing. The Chiefs are not just kind of taking their like, hey, whatever happens in these games, and they're not saving the good stuff. No, man. They're trying to figure this stuff out, Serda. Yeah. And Andy's trying to figure it out. Like, God, should I run it more? What kind of, like, they have completely lost all of what they are. Like, I'm embarrassed, Serda, to even look at the stats right now of how many times Mahomes dropped back. And he probably barely cleared 200 yards on that last drive. Yeah, 210. Yep. 37 pass attempts. And let me tell you something. He's got 4 carries, and I'm gonna guarantee you none of them were design runs. So they dropped back 41 times, and he had 210 yards passing. Right? Yeah. That's ridiculous. And that's just, and I think they're trying to figure it out themselves, and not trying to figure it out in a way of, oh, we're practicing and just trying stuff and not taking it serious. I think they are. I think they're disappointed, and I think they're frustrated right now that they haven't been able to figure it out yet.
Yeah. And me, you, and Brandon Kiley were texting during the game, as we do pretty much every Chiefs game. And Patrick Mahomes was under tons of pressure tonight. He was getting hit, and it wasn't all just on the left tackle. You know, DJ Humphries gets a start, and then he exits with a hamstring injury. Wanya Morris comes in and was fine in the limited snaps that he got, but it's kind of frustrating now because depending on the severity of that hamstring injury, now you're back to square one with the left tackle situation where you felt like maybe you were coming to a solution there, or at least finding some kind of answer. But I think the biggest issue, and we talked about it a little bit last week right now with the Chiefs, is that outside of Xavier Worthy and now McCole Hardman's banged up, the Chiefs just don't have a lot of speed. And so I didn't think the protection certainly wasn't great. And the Chiefs have a lot of issues along the offensive line at left tackle and right tackle specifically. But some of the pressure tonight was created by Mahomes not being able to get rid of the football because they just don't have guys who create separation that way. And even though Worthy is fast and explosive and can create some separation sometimes, he's not always creating separation in the way that Mahomes wants him to be open. And that leads to Mahomes hanging on to the football for too long and trying to buy time or bailing from the pocket because he feels uncomfortable. And then what happens is what happened tonight, where it seemed like Patrick Mahomes got hit 20 times tonight.
Yeah, he got hit a lot. And I want to say this because I do want to touch a couple of things there because all those things are tied in, right? The offensive line and him getting hit that many times, but also tied into what is going on downfield. And Steve, as you know, also tied into him. I think there's a little bit of a lot to go around. Early in the game, there were multiple times that he dropped back, Steve, and he had 3, 4, 5 seconds and couldn't get him open. And it seems like Worthy is down the field trying to get open. And if I'm the Chargers, damn sure that's the person that I'm putting resources to anytime I see him going down the field. We saw Worthy, his plays, and he had a decent game, but his plays were coming from either really quick outs because you got to give him space and he got 6 or 7 yards, or screens, or just quick crossers. But down the field, they're not going to let him beat them because they don't have a lot of concerns about anybody else. So yeah, I mean, and you don't have to be ultra fast. Like Rashee Rice is not ultra fast and speedy, but he's a better route runner and finds a way to get himself open. And Kelsey used to be that way as well. But I think a couple of things, sort of. One, yes, at times the protection broke down and more as the year grows on. But I got to say, Steve, if there is one team in the National Football League that you probably don't want to play if you're having tackle issues, and I'm not saying like there's not, it's this one. It's Mac, Bosa, followed up by Bud Dupree and Tutu, whatever that young man's name is, TT, whoever. Like they're rolling those guys in, and they've got a great blitzer who they blitz off the edge a lot, and Derwin James that cause problems. So I would say for the offensive line, especially if you're struggling with the tackle spot, this is the worst, maybe the worst matchup in the league. And I hope DJ Humphries is not. This isn't serious, but you're talking about hamstrings. That could be a long time. So yeah. I would anticipate that he may, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on IR, but that kind of happens when you haven't played in 12 weeks. So I was hoping like, all right, he's rusty. It's been a year since he's played, hey, introduce, there's no break with anybody they put over there on you. So I just think it's a lot of things. And I think Mahomes has been, gun shy, or not even gun shy, but it's in his mind that his clock is sped up. Because there are times he stepped up in the pocket when he didn't have to. There were times where there wasn't rush that he was feeling actually behind him, and he stepped up. He stepped up into Mac and Bosa, who weren't coming around. So I think it's a few things that kind of combines.
And and again, another weird win for the Kansas City Chiefs, where the narrative,
let 'em win, baby.
It is going to continue to be, the Chiefs are frauds. They keep winning these close games and they keep getting so lucky, or they get help or whatever. And what we're going to ignore the fact that that Jim Harbaugh, that late in the fourth quarter, he elects to on 3rd and 16, instead of trying to take a shot with Justin Herbert, elects to run the ball and just settle for the field goal and give the Chiefs the ball back, assuming, there's probably enough time left on the clock that we could get another chance at this. And they never get the ball back. And the Chiefs just drive down and get the field goal and do what they have to do to win, which is what they do every single week. Like, when it matters the most, when the game's on the line, when they absolutely have to have it, they find a way to get it done. It's ugly. It's not particularly fun, and it is very stressful. I desperately just want a 30-point win where I don't have to sit here and sweat out every single minute of an entire football game. But that's just not who this team is.
No,
they continue to find the ways to win, and they get it done when they absolutely have to.
They do, man. I take a 10-point lead, Steve. I'm not even talking about. I'll take a being up, and a team gets it to 8, and they got to kick an onside kick type of win. I'll take one of those wins. Like, these are. Like, you could see it, and that's the part, Serda. Like, I thought this was headed to a comfortable win. right? I didn't think the Chargers would be able to do much against, like, not score touchdowns against us. I thought maybe in the second half, like after that first half, it's 13-0. I thought they may be able to get a field goal or two, but they're not going to get down here. Now, hell, they drove it down there 3 straight drives and came up with 17 points. And at will, in ease. And like, I understand what you're saying. I think Jim was thinking, all right, we have been pressured and we have got some pressures, and I know Spags is going to blitz, and maybe I don't want to get hit and make this field goal more difficult or cause a turnover. And so 3rd and 16, low percentage for me to get it. But hell, I think he's crazy, because I'm telling you what, I'm looking at my man. Where's 27 in coverage? That's where I'm trying to find. I don't care who's on him. Joshua Palmer, Quentin Johnston, that Stone Smart fella. It doesn't matter who is. I feel like I can find 27 and get him. That's like that's the thing too, man. It's just too many easy answers for teams defensively. They got a 2nd and 18 after Nick Bolton goes in and gets a sack, and Joshua Williams on the play that he gets hurt. By the way, as you said, hey, it looks like Wanye Morris was out and they had a tackle answer. Well, it looks like they may have to figure out something with Joshua Williams, who had been playing pretty good. But then 2nd and 18, Joshua Williams is in a back pedal for some god unknown reason with nobody behind him. And they give up 19, 20 yards on a 2nd and 18. It's too many answers for offenses in the passing game to not just get plays, easy plays. I don't know what Shamari Connor has to do to prove to Spags that I shouldn't be on the field in coverage. And he's going to be a safety that's helping. That's one thing. But I don't know what else he has to show them repeatedly. And I saw somebody hit me up on Twitter when I said this. No, there are other things that he could be doing. There are other things. There are other people on clear passing downs that could be out there in coverage than Shamari Connor.
And this was reported by Ian Rappaport, I think, on Saturday evening, that free agent cornerback Steven Nelson and former Chief is expected to visit with the Chiefs on Monday. So,
well, Steve better ask for some more money right now. Right now.
It feels like they could really use Steven Nelson in the secondary right now. As again, Joshua Williams does exit this game, and it is a bummer but that's kind of what we expect from Joshua Williams. We know there's going to be some inconsistencies, but he's at least shown it before, and he still has played better than the large sample size we got of Najee Johnson, even in the bad moments for Joshua Williams for the most part. And, McDuffie was fine tonight, but again, like you mentioned, I like Shamari Connor.
Hold on, Steve. He was better than fine.
Yes.
McDuffie was back to the McDuffie we were
sure.
Like, he was great tonight. It's just go away from it.
They also had no McConkey, and Quentin Johnston was probably their best playmaker, though Joshua Palmer was just making the secondary look silly over and over again. And the Chiefs caught a break, too, that Herbert missed him on what should have been like a 70-yard touchdown. This is another thing week after week with the secondary, where Justin Reed, Brian Cook, Jaden Hicks, Shamari Connor, it doesn't really matter who they have out there at safety. They get beat deep way too often because they are just not coverage safeties. They're safeties that want to play around the line of scrimmage. They want to play up in the box and lay big hits and things like that. And so they get beat deep. And thankfully, Justin Herbert misses that throw to Joshua Palmer. But the Shamari Connor stuff, I would think that I was starting to finally turn a corner with the Chiefs secondary, where it's like, okay, McDuffie, Joshua Williams, if they bring in Steven Nelson, I feel a little bit better about Steven Nelson than Shamari Connor at this point. And then hopefully Najee Johnson and Shamari Connor are just like rotational pieces and not full-time players for you moving forward. And you can feel a little bit better. Now Joshua Williams goes out, and we'll see what happens with Steven Nelson this week. But the issues are still there with the secondary. Like, I don't necessarily feel better about the secondary today than I did going into this game, because they were banged up at wide receiver for the Chargers, and Joshua Palmer was just cooking them all night long tonight, every time he was matched up with Shamari Connor.
Well, I mean, he was just finding spaces, just wide open spaces out there. No, I feel better that we saw McDuffie turn back to being a top corner in this league. McDuffie here the last month, like the Denver game, he struggled. Last week he struggled. There's been some moments now that at least you had him, because I believe the way McDuffie was playing tonight, I think he'd have shut Ladd McConkey down the way he was playing tonight. It's just other spaces. And Steven Nelson, I mean, it's almost a must. I mean, they've got to get that done. That's almost a must thing, because, I mean, it's there's some stubbornness there to me with Spags, because I would think, like what you're describing, I would think that Shamari would probably be better than Cook or Reed or back there as a coverage safety, right? Because I mean, he has some skills as a cover guy. He just can't right now. But I think it would be better if he is back there, because to me, that's the only way he's in the game in terms of when the team's going to pass. Because whenever he gets locked up in coverage, I mean, it does not matter if it's a receiver, if it's a tight end, if it's a running back. It doesn't matter. He cannot cover. I think that would, to me, him and Hicks should maybe be the guys back there. Now, Hicks, he got beat tonight too on a play down the field. But it's just, I don't know, man. I feel better about McDuffie, and hopefully there is help with Steven Nelson coming, and he is ready to go, because Steven Nelson, I've watched every one of Steven Nelson's games the last 2 years. He had been the most consistent corner for the Houston Texans the last 2 years. And so that if he's playing that way, he would be a huge jump. And then you would have yourself a chance at passing downs to have McDuffie and to have him, and hopefully Joshua Williams can get back. That can work and put McDuffie back in the slot. But Shamari, I'm serious. Shamari Connor cannot be in coverage anymore.
Yeah.
It can't. On third and five on the line, he's not only in coverage, he's locked up with Palmer.
Yeah.
And it's an easy place to go.
He's a flat out liability in coverage at this point. And it's a bummer, because I like Shamari Connor. I thought coming into the season, I thought he had a chance to really take a step forward and be a playmaker for the defense, which he's just done that at times this year, but has for the most part just been a liability when they need so much from him as a young developmental player. And I do it wasn't all totally negative on the defensive side of the ball tonight. They still did enough to get the win, and it was nice to see the Chiefs actually get off the field on third down a little bit this week. They were able to do that against this Chargers team. And Herbert had some incredible plays because he's Justin Herbert and whatever. But the Chiefs defense did get off the field multiple times tonight when they absolutely needed to. But another concerning thing with them overall is a unit. And this is something we've been talking about for weeks, is just the lack of pressure up front. And, the Chiefs trade for Joshua Uche from the New England Patriots. Then he is inactive tonight and hasn't been able to carve out a role for himself that matters in any way for the Chiefs defensively. And then in the first half of this one, they just simply were not getting any pressure on Justin Herbert. Now, they were able to ramp things up a little bit in the second half. Chris Jones had some nice plays where he was actually getting after Herbert a little bit. Turk Wharton winds up coming up with a huge sack. George had a couple of moments in the second half. But at the end of the day, the secondary will be helped out a lot by this Chiefs defensive line if the defensive line can generate pressure more consistently. And we've just seen them over the last several weeks, really struggle to do that on a consistent basis. But again, they came up and they made the plays when they had to tonight. And that's just what we keep talking about with this team, where it's hard to zone in on one thing and be overly positive, even though they're 12-1, because it's just gritty, ugly wins all the time. They just eke these things out. And so you want to find the positives, and it's like, well, they won, but it wasn't fun to watch, but they keep making things happen when they absolutely have to. And that's just the story of them on offense and defense this season.
To go back to your comments on the pressure, yeah, I think clearly it's getting better the last couple of weeks, right? They are now they get 3 sacks again today. I think there were multiple times that they caused errant throws. I kind of disagree with you a little bit. I thought the first half they got better. They got pressure on him at times. I thought they caused some errant throws. I actually thought it was better in the first half than it was in the second half. There's just some of those that stick in our minds that, like, damn, man, he is patting it. He is sitting back there. He definitely has time, especially when you see the reverse of what Mahomes and the Chiefs offensive line is doing. He has time. I mean, the one that was the most disgusting, where it just looked like they took a break, was on the touchdown pass to Johnston, where they just all said, hey, man, let's stalemate together, all of us up front here. That wasn't in it. I think the blitzing is starting to get home a little bit more. So I thought the pressure was actually fine and getting better with things. And Chris Jones was an absolute handful multiple times where he got wins. George, George is the one that I'm surprised his numbers aren't reflecting more or that he's not doing more. But I thought the pressure was okay. It is a tough thing. At one point, you heard Chris Collinsworth say it, and I hate to beat on this dead horse, and I hate beating on this kid, but you heard Chris Collinsworth say it, talking about, hey, Shamari Connor was somebody they thought they could get, take advantage of and get in routes in one-on-one. And you heard him say it multiple times. That's not where the Chiefs want him. It is, and going towards the pass rush, Serda, as you know, when you know that you have a matchup, like you have a matchup that you could beat, like, in the second half, when they got that tight end and he was matched up on Nick Bolton, like you know where you're going. You're just buying enough time to get that to him. Like, and many times they know that they can get to Shamari Connor if he's got a matchup, especially if you are willingly let Palmer get in the slot singled up with Shamari Connor. You're gonna kill your pass rush, because Herbert knew exactly where he wanted to go a lot. Yeah. So that coverage on the back end to when you know exactly where you can go and you have a matchup you can win, it helps in a major way.
Again, even in an ugly win, it's still a win. This team is still
12-1, driver's seat, baby.
They clinched the AFC West. They are division champions with 4 games left to play in the regular season. They've got a 2-game lead in the AFC, and they're in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed in the conference. All they have to do is handle business over the next 4 weeks, and they will get a bye in the AFC playoffs, which I think they desperately could use right now. And so these next few weeks are going to continue to be about trying to figure this thing out and cleaning things up, because it's always with this team this season, it's always you finally take a step forward and you put a good drive together and you're starting to build on positives. And then it's immediately followed by a turnover or penalties or mistakes. And it's like over and over and over again. But this is just who they are. And so now we're in playoff mode now. We got 4 weeks left in the regular season. And so it's just clean the stuff up, flip the switch, and turn things on in the postseason like we know you usually do, and try to go make NFL history.
I'm glad you brought that up, sir. That, like, listen, they, again, as you said, they won the game, and there are some guys that look, I liked. I know it doesn't look like Worthy had himself a great game, but I thought he made some tough plays and turned some plays into positive yards to help set them up to be in 2nd and 6, 2nd and 4, and 2nd and 3. And so I think there were some guys who kind of stepped up today. I think Nick Bolton played really, really well. But to the point that you just made, Like the reason why the Chiefs are in so many of these close games is because when they get into the red zone, I mean, we've seen it. Every one of you watching this have seen this. We've seen it repeatedly, Serda. They will do something to themselves. They will do something to make it harder, and then they end up kicking field goals. And they tacked on another 2. They lead the league in red zone field goals. And they tacked on another 2 or 3 tonight. And they do something. And this thing, I mean, they are rolling. They cannot stop the run game. And here we go, 3rd and 1. And then Trey Smith goes and headbutts somebody when they are driving down to put this thing away and get in the end zone. In my mind, I've already thought like, all right, go for 2, get it from 5 to 7. But no, Trey goes and takes a 3rd and 1 and turns it into a 3rd and 16 because he wants to put his hog on the table with a headbutt. And they do that. Like you can see it. Like I bet you we can go down so many drives this year, sort of where there's a hold on somebody, or there's a intentional grounding, or there's a false start, or there's 2 false starts in a row, or they do something, or a play that's a TFL. They do something to hurt themselves in the red zone. And that's why these games are so close, because they kick so many field goals, because they get down there and something happens. Something happens that hurts them and puts them behind schedule, and they're not able to make the play. And I ain't gonna lie, it's the 2nd week in a row that I've never seen DeAndre Hopkins' hands fail him the way that they failed him, but he's at the 1-yard line and that touched his mitts, and he usually, secures that even if he gets hit. So, yeah. I mean, they are just shooting themselves in the foot every time they get down there, it seems like.
It feels like, in the playoffs, Kelsey's going to make those plays. Like in the playoffs, Mahomes is going to take it to another level. In the playoffs, I would hope that DeAndre Hopkins is going to make those catches that he hasn't been making recently. And that's what they brought him in for. And so it's just with this team, it's every week. It is frustrating, but it's always like they start to put it together and you're like, okay, are they starting to turn a corner? And then it's something boneheaded like that, but they continue to win. And it's hard to complain about that. So let's get to a couple of comments before we get out of here. Andy Reid is speaking to the media right now. Yeah. No updates on the injuries, but he usually speaks to the media again on Monday afternoon. So I would expect that have a little bit as far as DJ Humphries and Joshua Williams go by then. But it's from Taryn Young. Nico looks like he belongs. Work him into the offense, jet sweeps and whatnot. I like. Nico Remigio looked good. He was positive for the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, and it's nice to see him get in the game and get in the mix after the Chiefs have spent all this time hyping him up, yet never activating him to the roster. It was nice to see him get involved.
Yeah, I liked him as a punt returner. For me, he was coming in thinking, this is my shot, and I was hoping he wouldn't get a little too aggressive. But he played well. I don't know. Hell, I mean, let's get Xavier Worthy. Let's get some other people involved on some of this speed action. We'll see. But I mean, they got some guys they need to get involved more into the regular offense before they get to him. So we'll see. Right now, whatever they can do to sustain offense. Because I mean, what they get 6 points in the second half tonight. So I mean, yeah, whatever they can do. But no, good for him, man. As he did well in the kicking game, and I thought he may break one, and he got really good field position that led to one of the field goals. So good for him.
And from our guy Elliot, this bad of O-line play has lasting psychological effects on QBs. It'll take Pat a while to feel safe back there, even if they get it figured out. I mean, I think it's certainly affecting his play. But I mean, all they can do is try to put the guys out there that they have and hope they can get more out of them and try to improve it as they go. Cause it's not going to get easier. You got Myles Garrett next week. So I'm not looking forward to that matchup for the Chiefs offensive line either, but they'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, at least it's just Miles. Like, at least it's not craziness coming off the other side. And you can try to help with that. We'll see who is over there on the left side coming up next week against Myles Garrett. But yeah, man, it clearly it is having an impact. And it is having an impact on him. And like I said it earlier, I thought he left the pocket multiple times when he didn't have to leave the pocket, but you can understand why his clock is sped up. You can understand, where it is. But I think he was smart. At the first snap that Wanye comes in, I mean, he immediately runs away from that and gets, 9 yards to get a big first down to get him further in field goal range. So,
yeah.
But no, you're completely right on that. And I think it was a deal last year, but they still got to have to find a way to make plays.
He's Ron Hughley. Chiefs improved to 12-1.
12-1, baby.
The AFC West. Another division title. They sort of topped the AFC. Number 1 overall seed in the conference, and they are now in the driver's seat with 4 games left to go. It's not pretty. It hasn't really been exciting either. It's been mostly stressful, but they keep getting it done. And so it's hard to complain about a 12-1 football team that's looking to try to win their 3rd straight Super Bowl title. But we'll be back this week covering everything you need to know about the Chiefs Week 15 matchup against the Cleveland Browns. So make sure you stay locked in right here. As always, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review everything we are doing here on Foolish Club Media. And head over to our YouTube page if you haven't subscribed yet. We've got plenty of daily content. You can hear Ron and watch Ron on tomorrow's episode of the Daily Fix. We'll be live at noon with that and have everything else you need to know across all of Foolish Club Media this week. We'll talk to you guys then.